gulo tong isang to. Okay, this one. Okay, I hope this will work. All right, there we go. Ay, naka-on pala ulit ko. Alright, good evening everyone. Eto na naman tayo. Kasama naman natin isa sa mga favorite guests nyo. Kahit yung mga ni-recycle ko from 2 weeks ago, it still does well. So of course, kasama natin today si Justice Carpio. Nag-tweeting tayo, Justice. Just when I thought I'm gonna wear black, sabi ko siguro mag-black din si Justice Carpio. Kamusta po?
Well, okay, I'm okay. A lot of things to talk about.
I know. I was about to just sarcastically say, long time no see, Justice. And I was like, 3 days to be precise. Obviously, pag-usapan natin the big event we had the other day with the Patriots, with you, a lot of people local sa West Philippine Sea. Why maps matter? Why should we have yung mga kabataan natin dapat ma-expose talaga dun sa katotohanan na ukol sa ating kasaysayan, especially dun sa ating mga territory at saka sovereign rights dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Pag-usapan din natin, congratulations, Justice. Looks like there was another victory at the Supreme Court for you. Your former workplace.
Yeah, well, we got a TRO, but it applies only to ones that have not been transferred yet. Yung nalipat na, we have to find a way how to stop it, how to get it returned to PhilHealth.
Medyo may lusot-lusot dito. That's gonna be quite a interesting plumbing effort. But before that, pag-usapan natin, of course, the hearing of the century. I think that's the best way to put it. Okay. Now, obviously, with all due respect, great people, amazing people. Eto na. Justice, first of all, were you surprised that your kababayan from Davao dropped by this hearing? I mean, was he ready for scrutiny or was he ready for its showtime? What's going on there?
Well, I really thought he wouldn't appear, but probably thought that he had friends there. There was Bato and Go,
Right.
and I don't know who else. No? But it was very risky for him because he came out with admissions.
Right.
But it happened, and I think they should have let him talk until he stopped, no? Because he still wanted to talk. I was saying, wow, he should be allowed to talk some more.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Justice, we'll go to the nitty-gritties of the self-incriminating part because the reason why it's very controversial is because not only the usual factotums, allies. Just to be clear, I didn't say alalay, allies. Not only the usual allies were doing their job, but I'm not sure the chair of the hearing was really, what I'm saying, not to mention Jingoy and his intervention and the way they were talking to Digong, na very referential, Mr. President. You could see Duterte was feeling. So many people felt that it was not a real hearing. It was more like WWE than UFC. I mean, sorry for the references. It was too scripted, or at least they were too kind to him. But more importantly, the argument is baka ginamit niya ito as a platform to reach out to the Philippine National Police, to rally his base. May mga times na parang nagsasalita siya, presidente pa rin siya. I saw a lot of trolls tagging me since yesterday. Akala ko, sabi ni Darian, laos na kami. Tingnan mo si Tatay Digong, rockstar. Nagdala pa ng sariling cheering squad. Hey, what about that part of it, Justice? Don't you think it was a little bit too far from what we expect from a Senate? The minimum, bare minimum.
Well, for some people, they were of course concerned that
Hoy, Arnel Salada,
the
may
former
schedule
president
ka.
was
Go
given
live.
a platform and he was dominating the discussion. But while I was watching it, I said, "Wow, he's making a lot of admissions." He was owning up to the crime. He admitted he had a death squad, and he admitted that this death squad killed people.
Yeah.
Although they were made up of gangsters and also rich people.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know how
rich
gangsters and
people.
rich people can mix, no?
Well, I mean, that's Gotham City 101. Justice, before I go again to the nitty-gritties and the legal implications in terms of, what could DOJ take notice of, the ICC could take notice of, um, I want to go back to this because my reading was actually we predicted this last week. We had the RRM episode again in that studio that we invited you. Sabi ko, actually, it's a good thing na dadalaw si Digong if andun yung mga alalays niya because he will feel so comfortable that he's gonna really spill all the beans and bananas and durians, no? And naalala ko, the last time Bato played a prominent role in any Senate hearing, ayan, nadulas si ano, di ba, what's his name? Jonathan Morales. Yung naggulo na, inaway na. Basta ako, hindi katulad ng butiin na senador, hindi ako convicted. Like, nadala pa niya yung bawon niya, alam niya mga ano. So, given that circus situation, I felt that would be perfect because Digong will feel so in charge and then he'll bring out the worst in him. Is that how you see it, Justice?
Yes, I think he, looking back, he should not have appeared because he admitted
Yeah.
that he had a death squad. He admitted that he ordered the death squad to kill people, to kill
Yeah.
criminals. So he admitted to the extrajudicial killing because these are extrajudicial killings. It's not not within the legal system.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point. I mean, he just made it easy for the ICC.
Exactly. And just to be clear, Senator Riza Ontiveros, the last man, the only man, last man standing was a woman, obviously, as always, unfortunately. Um, in that situation, she gave him a chance, right, to clarify. Sabi niya, what do you mean by, clarify ko lang po, what do you mean by encourage the criminals? Na essentially lumaban para mangyari itong non-laban situation. And Digong said, yeah, that's correct, that's correct. Like, and then sabi Rizal, no, that's incorrect. And then sabi niya, no, ako alam ko yung ginagawa ko, prosecutor ako, presidente ako, abogado ako. Well, ikaw, Justice, you were a Supreme Court Associate Justice, and I would say legit. I'm sure hindi ka pasang-awa sa law school, so I respect your legal opinion more than that guy. Legally speaking, is it okay to encourage criminals to set on themselves for essentially being shut down by the police?
Well, this defense of self-defense, because they will claim self-defense now. You must not really be responsible of provoking the victim or
Right.
the other guy, no? So if they provoke it, so that is not a complete defense. Because you
Right.
provoke. There must be no
Exactly.
provocation from you.
And why
That's,
would yeah? Why would he
so
say
there's
that?
nothing inherently wrong with that defense that, okay, i-provoke mo, encourage them,
Encourage them to get themselves killed, essentially, right?
or give them a gun to use the gun against you.
Di ba, ang sabi pa niya, para matapos na, para wala ng essentially ganun, di ba? Para matapos na, para wala ng complications, essentially wala ng due process. That's what he's saying, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's essentially due process is a headache. I-shortcut na natin yan. And pumapalakpak pa yung mga tao. Diyan sa Senate, ibang klase talaga, nagdala talaga ng
Well, the cheering squad yun, dala yun din, hakot yun eh.
like, pati Senate, ginawang hakot talaga. I mean, parang barangay level talaga. Now, Justice, going back to this, what about the other aspects of Duterte's intervention? How are they incriminating in terms of contravention of due process? I like, for instance, yung idea ng presumption of regularity. You keep on hearing that from the Duterte people to kind of twist it to make it look na there was not something significantly wrong going on. Can you explain how is the presumption of regularity applicable here or actually not applicable?
Well, the presumption of regularity, you cannot, if, for example, you encourage the guy to to attack you, there's no presumption of regularity there
Right.
because
Right.
you induced him to attack you. That's not regular.
Right.
So there are a lot of contradictory statements that he made. No, he claims if you claim presumption of regularity, then you cannot say that we induced him to attack us. That's not regular anymore.
Right. Well, there's nothing regular really about Digong, right? To be honest, but I mean, I'm
Yeah,
just
there's nothing regular
this.
in creating a death squad. I mean, the mere creation of a death squad is against the law
I
because
mean,
we don't have a. Even the courts cannot order convict someone and impose a death penalty. We
yeah.
don't have a death penalty anymore.
Exactly. And going back to this, I mean, I remember President Ramos back in the day said that I think this was 2017. He said, "Hindi mo naman kailangang patayin all the way. Yung even if assuming natin for the sake of argument, lumaban may baril to, you can disarm them naman by shooting them in their foot. Yeah, you don't go headshot kaagad. In short, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many levels
In
before
other
you go to
words,
that. Yeah.
yeah, if you can disable him by shooting him in the leg, you have to do that.
Yeah. Right.
You're not supposed to shoot to kill right away. It's a last resort.
And what about the so-called reward system? Meron din siyang mga sinasabi si BBM, si Digong about the whole reward system. In fact, tinanong siya about si Garma, sabi niya gaga yan si Garma. I mean like, what is your take doon sa mga sinasabi ni ukol sa whole reward system structure that was established per Garma and other testimonies?
Well, that was confirmed by the video of Senator Go. He was
Right,
confirming it was a reward system,
right.
and he announced it. So there's so many people who can confirm that, and even Senator Go confirmed it. I mean, they were bragging about it,
Yeah.
explaining the entire reward system. So it's difficult for them to deny now because they voluntarily announced to the public at
Yeah.
that time that they had a reward system. And you ask the mayors, they will confirm that.
Honestly, Justice, I'm having a hard time kasi they're so ridiculous. I'm like, minsan parang patulang ko ba yung argument nila? But for the sake of, you know what I'm saying, clarity, I'm just thinking about, sige, patulan na natin yung mga argument. Kaya, sorry, Justice, you know, parang ang ginagawa natin, Justice, here is we're holding some people's hand and slowly, you know, like, guiding them through the ridiculousness of their argument. Kaya, sorry, Justice, if I'm asking the presumption of regularity argument. Now, in terms of yung sinasabi ni Digong, kasi I remember towards the end of kanyang intervention, this is where it was very political, right? Essentially, he was reaching out to the police and telling them, I'm your guy. We are in the same team here, right? Don't go against me. We're on this together. What is your reading of that? Is he trying to remind them that they have a blood pact? That lahat tayo may dugo sa kamay natin, so wag tayo magmamalinis dito? Or yung sinasabi niya na, actually, I'm for police because you guys take all the risk. Hindi lang naman sahod eh. Diba? It's a very Trumpian argument, which is, you know, the police are taking a lot of risks. No one appreciates their sacrifices. I'm the one who appreciates them. Yung ganitong argument. How do you read that, Justice Scarpio?
Well, yes, he said that, but he also pointed at De La Rosa. Ikaw, commander ka ng death squad. I mean, the poor guy, I don't know what he was thinking at that time. The person was telling him he was the commander of the death squad.
Yeah.
So how can De La Rosa now deny that? And the president De La Rosa cannot claim that former President Duterte was just joking because he was under oath. When you are under oath, you cannot be joking. It's solemn.
Yeah.
You are solemnly making a statement of what you are alleging to be the truth. And that what came out of his mouth, saying, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. He pointed at De La Rosa and said, you are the commander of the death squad.
So yung
That was
mga
the meaning of that.
So Justice, hindi pwedeng mga palusot nila. No, hindi, nagbibiro lang si Digong, symbolic lang yan, it's a Davao thing. Yung mga all of yung mga
Wala, hindi. Because
Echeborreche.
he swore to tell the truth. It's a solemn proceeding.
But he
He
also
cannot just change his tune now.
But didn't he also speak from five sides of his mouth? He'll say something and then, oy, hindi naman talaga ganyan. Di ba he would do this? I mean, that look like just a digong midnight rant, right? It's just his usual stream of subconsciousness. Nung sa una, medyo ingat siya sa dulo, but yung pandang gitna, talagang ano it's
Yeah.
digong-digong talaga eh.
Yeah, when he felt confident, he just kept on talking. And I was saying they should just allow him to talk until he falls asleep.
Well, mukhang madaldal siya that day. I think he slept the whole day and then went there. The way he went in, like parang, okay, I had a long sleep, my
Yeah, he
friend.
didn't want to stand. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to continue the proceedings, and
And
they
then,
had to pick him up.
and you could also see he has no respect, no? I mean, he's like habang nagsasalita si Coco Pimentel, hindi, ayoko na umalis. Hindi, okay na yan, nandito pa ako. Tapos si Bato, oh, we have a majority decision to end this, hindi, magsasalita. Ginaganon lang siya, di ba? Like, you could see he has no respect for the institution, right?
Yeah, but he didn't realize that he was really admitting his guilt. I mean, it was an extrajudicial confession made under oath,
Yun nga,
and
yeah.
it didn't deviate from what he said before.
Yun
I
nga
mean, it
yeah.
really, he was saying this on camera to the before the press, before the world before. Now he's saying it before a legislative body that has sworn him to tell the truth. So it's very consistent that he really ordered people to be killed. So I have a death squad. What else? If you have a death squad, I mean, there's nothing laughable about that. You
Yeah.
must be terribly serious to say that.
Well, unless hakot kang crowd, you're gonna laugh at everything Tata is gonna say, even if wala sa lugar. Just as going back to this, before I go to ICC, shouldn't this be a basis for DOJ already to launch something serious or CHR? I mean, what ombudsman like? I mean, which state institution in a normal situation, in a functioning democracy, should make the next move? Because I think all of us saw the self-incriminating, statements there. I mean, what else are we waiting for, right?
Yes, well, the DOJ should start the investigation, and
Yeah,
they need not wait for somebody to file a complaint. But it doesn't mean that the ICC will back off because of
yeah.
any investigation by the DOJ, because there's a question of sincere investigation and authentic investigation. So they will have to watch
Mm.
how DOJ will proceed with the investigation. No?
But don't you think this could also give an excuse for kasi parang strategy ni Marcos is kick the can down the road, right? And use the ICC as a Damocles sword, right? Like don't go for culmination, just keep on kicking down the road, keep on using it as a leverage, Damocles sword. How is this hearing with all the self-incriminating testimony, which is an evidence, right? Um, gonna play into that? My reading of the situation is that's BBM's game plan so far, isn't it?
Looks like that's the game plan,
Yeah.
but it's the President Duterte, former president, is digging a deeper hole by his statements. Is signing his death warrant by just keeping on admitting that he had a death squad, no? And and you can point to the number of people who died because of this death squad. We all know at least 6,000 people per admission by the PNP, and the the human rights lawyers are claiming upwards even beyond 20,000. No?
So, Justice, what you're saying here is that there's enough testimonial evidence, thanks to Digong's essentially big mouth and lack of his incontinence, if I can put it, his inability to restrain himself. Dahil dyan, sa tingin nyo, may sapat na ebidensya na tutulong doon sa kaso ng ICC. At dapat medyo
Yes,
mapaya ng DOJ, dapat gumalaw-galaw na sila. Essentially, yun po yung argument nyo.
yes. You have to factor in
Yeah.
addition to the testimonies of Matubato, Las Cañas, and there's a third star witness with the ICC. You add that with the confessions, extrajudicial confessions of Duterte, and you've got a very, very strong case.
Yeah, so in that sense, magpasalamat tayo kay Bato kasi he not only made sure Duterte self-incriminates, Duterte also incriminated him, right? So actually,
Yeah.
it was
How
good.
can he,
This
how
was
can now
good.
he, yeah, how can he now say that Duterte was just joking? It was a serious proceeding.
Rockstar daw si Digong. He's like, these people don't really understand how this works, right? Akala na sila pa rin nasa poder eh.
Yeah, probably they thought they could just uh, they could retract what they say at any time. But you cannot retract this. This is videotaped. It's
Yeah.
under oath. Uh, their stenographers took the proceedings. So I don't know how they can get out of that.
I mean, it's so crazy that I just had an interview with foreign news channels. Even they were shocked at how Duterte is so unabashed in terms of self. I mean, like, what the heck is this guy doing? Like the, tapos wait lang, Justice. Ano ba? May nakita ko yung lawyer ni Alice ko doon. Lawyer din ba ni Digong si yun? Yung ano, yung puti yung buhok na parang pineapple na ganyan. Sino, parang lawyer ni Alice ko yan, di ba?
Well, I know. I don't. I didn't notice him.
And you didn't know, there's a lot to know. I'm sure you noticed Panelo. I think this was a
Yeah, he was there,
He
but he
was
was not. He was not stopping his client. He
Oh
just
yeah.
allowed it to rumble and rumble.
I think naghanap siya ng content. For me, I think the biggest winner of that hearing was Panelo. Alam mo bakit, Justice? Because wala si manhunted, ano, wala si, ano, yung kanyang rival, karibal. I think ganun siya. Sino ngayon ang presidential spokesman, di ba? Yung parang feel na, nasaan ka na, di ba? Yung minamanhunt ngayon, di ba? I think that was his moment, right?
Well, I wouldn't want to be in his position because you know I lost count of how many times the former president made extrajudicial confessions.
And this guy
I
didn't do his
lost
job at
count.
all.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you should do is to prevent your client from talking like that.
Yeah, and to think they're both supposed to be lawyers, right? Speaking of speaking of Panelo, kanina nagyabang siya, sabi niya, "Oh, Digong was just toying with Riza Ontiveros kasi siya abogado, si Riza Ontiveros hindi." In what multiverse did Duterte come out better in that exchange? I just don't get it from a legal standpoint kasi he's flexing the abogado card. You as the former Supreme Court Associate Justice, what is your reading in that?
Well, those are extrajudicial. We call that extrajudicial confessions, admissible in evidence,
Yeah.
and just an interview with media on camera or even without a camera.
Right.
That's an extrajudicial confession. That's admissible. This one is under oath.
Yeah.
I mean, so if it's under oath, they cannot say it was a joke because that's a solemn proceeding. So that took away their usual excuse that it was just a joke. They cannot say that anymore
Yeah. Yeah.
because he said, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So that prevents him from claiming that I was just joking.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing to joke when you're the president and you control all the levers of power. It's another thing to joke when you're actually on the losing side of a political war, right? So this tells you Digong is probably not that smart, right? After all, I think people have been. I think he's overestimating his magic. I mean, it's one thing to bring hakot crowd and cheer on you, but a lot of people were like this guy is like digging his own grave, big time. Now, Justice, I want to ask a little bit more personal question on this whole issue of extrajudicial killings before we transition to obviously other issues that are very close to your heart. Don't worry, yung mga kadidiyas natin, si BBM naman ang next na titirahin namin. Don't worry. Okay, we're fair. Okay. But Justice, obviously you and I, one of the reasons we got to know each other more throughout the years is because of our advocacy, yung ating adhikain sa West Philippine Sea, right? At regardless of what some clowns say, actually it was not an easy fight. We had to deal with Chinese trolls, pro-China trolls, all sorts of harassment. I don't know kung either of us is welcome back in China or Hong Kong anytime soon. Na-miss ko pa naman in Disneyland doon. Joking. But obviously, Justice, you couldn't ignore like mass murder that was happening across the country. You coming from Davao, you know the modus operandi of the Dutertes. What is your read of that humanitarian catastrophe? And on a personal level, maybe one day you should write your proper memoir on this. But on a personal level, I know you had already a lot on your plate as a Supreme Court justice. But how are you processing, both legally and emotionally, the fact that tens of thousands ng ating mga kababayan ay kinakatay? I mean, just to create this illusion na Duterte is the man who brings law and order and all of that. I mean, some would even say that was fascist.
Well, for fewer people killed, for fewer people massacred, maybe less than 100, a lot of military officers, politicians have been convicted of crimes against
Yeah,
humanity.
exactly. Yeah.
You are talking here officially of 6,000 people. But I was in the Supreme Court and we had that resolution. We quoted the PNP official publication that they had over 25,000. There were over 25,000 people killed in the drug war.
Yeah.
And they were saying that these 6,000 were killed in police operations, and the rest were killed uh, by gang wars,
Yeah.
crime syndicates involved in drug. I mean, these are all drug related.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were killing each other, all these drug lords.
Yeah.
So, but it was part of the police report that these are the casualties in the drug war.
Yeah.
So, but they pulled that out. They put that in the website of the PNP, but they pulled that out when we quoted it in our resolution. That they bannered it as an accomplishment. In fact, initially they thought it was an accomplishment,
Yeah.
but when they realized that they're putting out figures, that's 25,000.
Yeah.
I mean, the generals in the Serbian war were found guilty for less than how. I mean, fewer.
Sila
For
Milosevic and
less
all.
than 100 people
Yeah.
killed, less than 20. So this one is really, I would call it epic proportions. Even 6,000 is a lot already.
Yeah.
And to say that it reached 25,000, this document, the admission by the PNP, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean that's literally what you got after months of bombing of places like Gaza, right? That's where you get numbers like tens of thousands. Literally, when you're bombarding a place, that's where you get casualties of that scale, right? I mean, they're talking 20, 30,000. I mean, it's. I mean, when justice this really dawned on me, the numbers is when I gave a talk in some event, no, and it was a youth event, and ano siya, yung buong Aranet, one of the stadiums dun sa Mall of Asia, and someone said the capacity is 25,000 and it's full, and I realized, so ganong kadaming namatay, right? If you put them, they will fill up the whole stadium. So yung scale, diba? One thing is abstract, and then you like say, if all of these people were killed, that would be the number of EJK. Like, I mean, again, just as ikaw kasi you came from Davao, so you're familiar with the Dutertes, but you're a justice, you're a man of justice, literally, and figuratively. How are you processing this? Again, I know yung advice mo sa akin, like Richard, let's choose our battles, and you already had so many other issues, including West Philippines, on your plate. But I mean, how do we make sense out of that? We are, Manny Mogato, we had him, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. He was talking about his own coping mechanisms with that catastrophe. I had Dr. Lele Claudio who said that was a moral crisis, catastrophe. Some would call it a fascist takeover. How did you make sense out of this, Justice? Or you were just so busy you just had to just go leave it, like fight every day?
Well, I think what dawned on me was the magnitude of people killed. 25,000 per official admission by the PNP, whether killed in operation or killed in the broader concept of a drug war, including gang wars involving drugs. That's too much. I mean, by any definition, that's widespread. That's a crime against humanity.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just too much. So I think it's something that we really have to face and to confront why it happened. Because
Yun
if
nga
we
eh.
don't confront that,
Exactly, yeah.
it will happen again. And we should not be doing this to our own people. So it's hard because our people have not really,
Come to terms.
I
no?
think,
Yeah.
realized the importance of this. I mean, this is a crime of epic proportions. Killing, even if you say there were only 6,000 people, that's still, I mean,
Thousands, yeah.
nobody has done that before.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
this is unprecedented, right? A drug war
yeah, it's
killing
still
tens of thousands.
unprecedented. So we have to come to grips with this, why this happened and why we failed to stop it.
Yun nga, just as what makes it scary to me is because you can easily talk about dictators, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, whatever, Kim Il Sung, whatever, who oversaw deaths of thousands and tens, if not millions of people. What's really troubling here in our case is that we're talking about a democratically elected leader doing this, and a democratic elected leader who maintained an extremely high approval rating. So parang, what was that? Consensual ba yan? Or, I mean, how do you read it from a moral and a kind of a societal standpoint, Justice? I mean, obviously,
Well,
yun nga
I
eh.
have a theory on that, why this would not happen in the 60s. But in the late 70s, early 80s, 90s, our, before, when you watch a movie, when you watch a television show, there's always a lesson
Yeah.
that the good will prevail over evil. That is always the lesson in all of those movies. But now, ABS-CBN, because of the ratings war, they just dropped that. And they just
Right.
catered to the whims of the public just to get the ratings. And so the senses of the people have been dulled to all of these bloody, murderous movies, no, or telenovelas. I mean, it's like it's normal to kill people.
So you're talking about how corporate media desensitized the
Yes.
public to violence.
Yeah, we have dumbed down our people. We have removed their
Critical thinking.
conscience.
Yeah.
We have made them accept that this is an ordinary thing. Killing people is ordinary. So when it happens in real life, they just shrug their shoulders.
Ako naalala ko
And
yung
that's why
yeah.
I'm amazed that, or really horrified that it's accepted. And we have to recover our values. That this thing should not be allowed.
Hindi lang tolerated, but it was even celebrated. I know people even off the record, they would tell me, tama lang yan, para magkaroon tayo ng Ubusin na yan. I mean, there were some people on the record from some private schools. I won't say what's called. They called these people cockroaches. I mean, that's like the language the Nazis would use against
Yeah.
Slavic people or religious men. I mean, this is fascist stuff. So that's really what shocked me to my core. And to be honest, just as until now, hindi pa ako fully nag-recover kasi the last thing I want is lose faith in our people. I have faith in the Filipino people. Both of us have. That's why we're fighting for our country in our own ways. At the same time, we really have to come to terms with it. This was crazy stuff. People
Yeah, we
cheering
have
on
to
this.
do a lot of re-educating, re-immersing ourselves with human values, because life has no more value now.
Yeah. Just as interesting. We had David Nye, former journalist who also worked with ABS-CBN before he went abroad. Nag-work siya eventually sa Global Times, diba? So he's now spilling the beans about Chinese propaganda. But our conversation start. You know how I do the things, diba, Justice? I first go through the history before I go to the topic. So, ang dami niyang nilaglag. Sabi niya, galit na galit siya sa TV Patrol noon. Na not only itong binago yung lingwahe, pero naging sensationalist. And speaking of sensations, ako, pinakauna kong mga naalala sa TV Patrol is patay, patay, sanggol, patay, patay. Yung ganun, every day you hear patay, patay, patay. Like, that first, you're right, it desensitizes you. And second, it also creates this idea na parang ano na tayo, narco state na tayo, na parang grabe na. Well, so it was so easy for Duterte to come in and just say, tignan no, dami na mamatay. So kailangan yung katulad ko para matapos na to. Patay na natin lahat ng mga kriminal na yan, di ba? So I think you're right, this information media ecosystem, unfortunately, primed the public for someone like Digong.
Yeah, we in our movies, in our television shows, we have removed the moral of the story. There's no more moral. I mean, evil can triumph, and it's accepted already. So we have abandoned that the inculcation of values. So the media, TV, radio, have abandoned their mission of inculcating values on our people, and this is the result. And you have the
Yeah.
result. People will say, hindi bali na nagnanakaw yung government official, basta may parte kami.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's doing it now,
Right.
because you know that if you steal from the government, as long as you give it to the people, they will still vote for you, and that's the big problem. We have descended so low already.
Yeah, our standards are very low. But I think we have discussed a lot about Team Kadiliman. Doon naman tayo sa kabilang team for now, Justice. Let's talk about irregularities. I won't call it corruption. Para lang malaman ng tao we're fair, no? It's just at their levels. Mass murder for me is the worst evil that any president can do. Kaya for me, worst president pa rin si ano. But doesn't mean we're gonna forget also about irregularities. Now, Justice, there seems to be a little victory, at least kanina, and that little victory is the Supreme Court has finally issued this TRO. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened here and what are the implications and what should be the next move by those who want accountability?
Well, Richard, they had a plan, the government of Marcos Jr.
Yeah.
to transfer
O yan, yung mga
89.9 billion, about 90 billion
Kaya kayo.
of trust funds of PhilHealth,
Ayan, matuwa
to
na kayo.
transfer it to the National Treasury. The National Treasury will give it to other agencies. We were able to stop the
Yeah.
transfer of 30 billion only. So the 60 billion was approved earlier before the TRO, and that's not covered by the TRO. So what we're trying to do is to appeal to the president that
Yeah.
to just freeze the use of these funds, because the Supreme Court could later on, I believe the Supreme Court will declare it unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And it would be unfair that the funds, the bulk of the funds would have been spent, and it could not be returned anymore, because even if the law says that the government official responsible for the release for that unconstitutional act will be personally liable,
Right.
you cannot recover 90 billion or 60 billion
Yeah.
from
Spilled milk na
Secretary of
siya eh.
Finance.
Yeah.
He will not be able to return that money. So because therefore the damage is irreparable, it cannot be repaired. It cannot be. They cannot reimburse that money. So it should be stopped. But the problem is we're able to stop only 30 billion because the funds have been transferred 60 billion. So we are appealing to the president to be fair. I mean, he is in control of the executive department, and he should tell his people don't spend that because it could be declared unconstitutional. And it's unfair to the poorest of the poor of Filipinos who depend on medicine and other health benefits from PhilHealth
Yeah.
because they cannot find any other. There's no other source of life-saving medicine for them. It's only PhilHealth. So we're appealing to the president to just stop the use of these funds. So that's the situation basically, because I think with the Supreme Court saying that we issuing the TRO,
Yeah.
you issue a TRO if there is a clear legal right
Yeah.
in favor of the petitioner. We are the petitioner. So in fact, the Supreme Court is saying there's a clear legal right. And second, the second requirement is the damage cannot be repaired. So you have to issue the TRO. And in this case, the damage cannot be repaired because nobody can return 60 billion pesos.
Well, I mean, let me disagree with you, Justice, on that. Last time, baka namang pera dyan sa Batangas. Just kidding. Parang buong pamilya lahat. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Baka naman, maano tayo dyan. But, wala lang yan. How much lang yan? No, just kidding. So what you're saying here is, etong decision ng Supreme Court, Korte Suprema, is enough signal for BBM to just do executive corrective move here and wag na hintayin mapunta pa ito all the way until next year. Is that what you're saying? Na this
Yes.
TR just tells you
But-
something is
and-
wrong, so you
and-
should do it. The rest you should do it yourself.
Yeah. The argument that they need the money, there's a solution for that.
Mm-hmm.
PhilHealth can buy treasury bonds,
To raise money.
and so the cash goes to the government, they
Right.
can use it. But at
Yeah.
least PhilHealth does not lose the money.
Right.
The money is still there when the money is needed by the poorest of the poor of Filipinos. But if you allow this to be just taken out and without no chance of being returned, that's
You create a vacuum.
terrible because
Yeah.
that's the money of the poor, the poorest of the poor. So I think the happy solution is for the president to say, okay, return the money, PhilHealth, you buy treasury bonds, so the cash goes back and the government can use it for whatever it wants.
Yeah. So that's
my proposal.
Right, that's your proposal. And of course, I don't want to. I'm sure there's confidentiality here, but to the degree that you can say in public, do you feel there's enough amenability, by the commander in chief to this compromise or correction, if I can put it?
Yeah,
Since
he has
elections-
control because the president has control of the executive department. He can reverse any of their decisions or direct them to do a particular act. That's the meaning of control. So ultimately, it's his call.
Yeah.
That's why I'm making it public. It's the call of the president. Mr. President,
Yeah.
there is a solution.
Right.
And you can do this to save the poorest of the poor.
Right. The ball is in his court right now. The Supreme
Yes.
Court has done its part. Just quickly before we go to the West Philippines in the latter part of this discussion, Justice, I mean, what is your read in terms of what should the opposition do if ever the president is not amenable to make a corrective move? Do you think that you have to make protests, make some... Kasi parating ng election eh. Should this be a central issue for the opposition? Knowing that pwede ma-weaponize din ng mga Duterte yan to cover up for their own even more allegedly heinous crimes.
Yes, the opposition will use this issue, the PhilHealth
Yeah.
funds, because this resonates with the poor, with the masa. Because you're taking away money that will... Ayuda ito eh, for them eh.
Yeah.
So you're taking it away from them, and it's very easy to say it's the administration is responsible for this. They took away your medical ayuda. Yung mga gamot ninyo, kinuha nila.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful
Visceral siya, yeah.
argument against the administration. And I'm sure they will use it. They're starting to use it already.
Yun-
But to stop that from being used, the president can just order the return, and then PhilHealth can just buy treasury bonds. So the money goes back to the government, but at least it was not stolen from PhilHealth.
Yun nga eh. Just last point before we transition to West Philippine Sea. Again, I don't know to what degree you can say this publicly. What do you feel about the role of with all due respect, to the Supreme Court? Because hindi ako nagsasabi yan, but a lot of people have been raising concerns about to what degree is the Supreme Court truly independent and has acted as a check and balance on the excesses of the executive, and especially after what happened to former Chief Justice Sereno. Many people have been talking about brazen politicization within the highest court of the land. Again, I understand this is sensitive for you because you spent some of those years inside when a lot of these trend lines were really reaching their apogee. But do you think that the Supreme Court is on the right direction now, especially since Duterte left? But doesn't that also say that they can only do their job best when there's no authoritarian leader? Therefore, they're not really that effective. You get what I'm saying? I think it's a tough. I just want to get your point of view on this. The role of the Supreme Court as an institutional check and balance. Because we keep on talking about hearing, Senate, Congress, Quadcom. Saan yung Supreme Court, diba? What is your take on that, Justice?
Well, as you know, Richard, a lot of people are getting disillusioned already
Yeah.
because of corruption,
Yeah.
because of political dynasties.
Yeah.
Basically, those two. The third one is they call it the cheating in elections.
Yeah.
Basically, those are the three issues raised by ANIM. You know ANIM, no?
Yeah.
So, and the undercurrent here is because we're hopeless already,
Yeah.
we cannot stop the corruption. They're advocating for RevGov, revolutionary government.
Right.
I mean, they are laying to the public, okay, there's corruption for every peso of government fund, maybe only 30 centavos are used. The
Yeah.
rest are stolen. So this keeps on sinking into the consciousness of the people, and they become receptive to RevGov, revolutionary government.
Essentially
So-
overthrowing the democratic order.
Yeah.
Constitutional democratic
So-
order, yeah.
I've always been for the rule of law, and I said that can be corrected. We will file this case with the Supreme Court, questioning the transfer of funds, questioning the confidential funds,
Right.
questioning the failure of Congress to file to enact an anti-dynasty bill law, anti-political dynasty law. So the onus now is on the Supreme Court, really. The way I look at it,
Yeah.
in the overall scheme of things, we're reaching a boiling point
Yeah.
where we have to tell the people, don't think of RevGov because we can still use the rule of law to correct this cancerous growth in our society. So that's why I've been filing these cases to show that there is a way out. We don't have to resort to a revolutionary government because we can correct it by reasoning it, by bringing it to the court, because the court is the court of last resort. If there's an anomaly in the executive and in the legislative, we go to the court. And that's why we brought this issue on PhilHealth, because it really touches on the raw nerve of the poorest of the poor. And they could easily be swayed that
Yeah.
it's hopeless to to expect justice and fairness in this system of government. So my point is, no, it's not. We can still work within the system, and that's why we brought this case. So that is my the motive behind what I'm doing. I'm trying to preserve the rule of law to prevent a collapse. Because if there's a collapse, we don't know what will happen.
I mean, that's very important. That's the whole reason why Rizal had to write El Filibusterismo, di ba? And essentially, the Simon way of doing things, which is burn it down and let's burn down the whole house. It's not gonna end well for anyone, right?
Yes, and we will be set back again because any political political disturbance, upheaval here will set us back economically. We will be far behind again.
And others will exploit it. China will take even more chunks of West Philippines, the more unstable and weak we are internally. So I think people have to
Yeah, if we
understand
are
that. Yeah.
not united, our enemies, foreign enemies, will take advantage of that. So I think the focus now, the onus is on the Supreme Court to look at this in a broader scheme, because people are getting disillusioned. I can feel it.
Absolutely.
You
I
can
mean,
feel it. I'm sure.
Duterte's victory, right? Arab's victory, Duterte's victory, even BBM's victory. All of these are protest votes. These are protest votes. I mean, people have just lost faith in reform and rule of law and all of that. So if Ibarra was wrong, per Rizal, and Simon is even more wrong, how can we really push for transformative change, justice, in ways that liberal reformists were not able to do? Kasi I think both of us can agree, ang dami rin ng kakulangan ni Ramos, ni Pinoy, despite their best intentions. How do we do it better this time? Dapat ba mas palaban tayo? Should we be even more aggressive and unforgiving to masyado ba tayong soft on people who are na binabastos yung ating sistema? What should we do? More mobilization?
Well, we have to get back our values because we have lost a lot of our values, and appeal to the remaining bastion in government that can correct this these aberrations. No, so that's why. Well, we won a little victory there in the TRO, but that will be nothing if the entire funds, if the rest of the funds will be lost. No? So, we need this victory to show to the people you don't have to ask for a Rev Gov because it can be done. If we follow the rule of law, I'm always for that. That we can solve this to the rule of law, but it's difficult to work on this, but we don't have a choice because the alternative really is Rev Gov where there are no rules.
Yeah, absolutely. Desperation is dangerous. I think warning shot na yung nangyari kay Digong and how far it could go with. So, to be fair also, I mean, we can talk about lack of critical thinking because of our education system as we can know, but we also have to, I think this is where I come in, we also have to understand bakit bukas ang tao sa isang katulad ni Digong dahil desperado din sila sa tunay na pagbabago. Except yung nakuha natin pagbabago ay it set us back even more, not to mention costing thousands of lives. Now, Justice, let's go to the last part of our discussion. West Philippine Sea. This is one area that I think we're moving in the right direction precisely because we move in such a wrong direction, right? Under Duterte. So I think that was really a wake-up call. So West Philippine Sea has become much closer to our sense of urgency, policy discussion, almost a gut issue in ways it never was, thanks to how scary it got during Duterte's time. And one person that obviously played a very important role in mainstreaming the West Philippine Sea issue and making it sure na ito ay relatable sa bawat Pilipino at the most fundamental level of consciousness and nationalism. It's you, Justice. And one of the means that you deployed are maps. Dahil napaka-visual ang Pinoy, di ba? Hindi visual sa libro, pero visual sa maps. Can you tell me a little bit about the journey, the Velarde map, and all of these different maps that you've put together, and also yung latest na ginawa natin over the weekend ba yun or so, that was the Philippine National Library event we had. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the importance of that?
Yeah, well, I have what I call the Four Maps Project
Four maps, yeah.
to establish Philippine sovereignty over Scarborough Shoal and the Calayan Island Group. And we start with the Murillo Velarde map. Then the next map is the 1808 Carta General, and then the 1875 Carta General, and finally the Treaty of Paris map. Now, the map will easily show to school children and to the public why we have sovereignty over Scarborough Shoal and the Calayan Island Group. No? And the 1734 map is called the mother of all Philippine maps because it was widely copied. And you can see there, when you look at the map, you can see Scarborough Shoal there. It's called Panacot. It was called Panacot at the time. And then you can see Los Baos de Paragua. That's the Spratlys. So way back in 1734, when nobody else claimed Scarborough Shoal and the Spratlys, we claimed them as part of Philippine territory. And that map is an official map, the first official map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime. And the 1808, that was the next map, official map of Philippine territory. And you can see Scarborough Shoal there with deaf soundings.
Yeah.
Because Malaspina went to Scarborough in 1792 because it was famous because the British tea clipper ship Scarborough ran aground.
Right.
European cartographers renamed the shoal Scarborough. And so he went there and he measured the depths around the rocks to guide navigators. And in 1808, when they made a new map of the Philippines, they inserted that survey. Very unique because the rest of the country had no hydrographic survey, no depth sounding.
Yeah.
So you can easily see that that's special to the Philippines. And then the third map is the complete map, really, the most detailed complete map, because the maker of the map, a certain naval officer named Claudio Montero, was the head of the Philippine Hydrographic Commission during the Spanish regime. And he had two ships, he conducted depth soundings all over the country. So the map, if you look at the islands, they have all depth soundings, and especially in the Spratlys, all the islands there, Pag-asa is there, Kota is there, Ligao is there, and they have depth soundings. So, and China has no map like that.
Right.
Vietnam, none. Malaysia, none. So we have all these maps, and these are official maps because you can see there it's an official publication of Spain made by their equivalent of their NAMRIA.
Right.
And the Americans, when they came here, they adapted because the map that they made in the 1898 treaty was incomplete. The one that I donated last week it was incomplete. So that the value of that map is that it
Kaya
led to the second treaty, the Treaty of Washington, and the Treaty of Washington says Spain also ceded to the U.S. all other islands belonging to the Philippine archipelago lying outside the lines, because the Treaty of Paris ceded to the U.S. only islands within the treaty lines, and it excluded Scarborough Shoal, it excluded the Spratlys and Cagayan de Sulu and Sabuto. So because of the 1898 map was incomplete, they had to do a second treaty to complete the cession of the entire Philippine archipelago.
Right.
So that second treaty says Spain ceded to the U.S. any and all islands belonging to the Philippine archipelago lying outside the lines. So you have there, it's complete. What was ceded in the Treaty of Paris were the islands within the lines. What was ceded in the Treaty of Washington were the islands outside the lines.
Outside lines. So anong
question is, what are those islands outside the lines?
Exactly.
You go to the 1875 map, because when the Americans came here, they found out that this was the most complete map. So they adapted it as their own map. And in fact, in the arbitration in Islas Palmas between the U.S. and Netherlands over that small island in Mindanao, The Americans said this 1875 map is an official map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime and during the American regime. So
Right.
there you are. That is the problem. Is we don't have an original print of that map. We only have an image copy, a digital image copy, which I downloaded. But we will look for an original print of that map.
Saan kayo? May bumili ng private,
Yeah, in the auction
collection?
houses, I saw two that were sold already. It was too late, but maybe now and then a collector would offer it for sale. So we will just have to
Yeah.
wait.
At obviously hindi siya mura. So, again, more power to you, Justice, and the rest raising the money for that. Last point on this. Actually, I was a bit disappointed, Justice, with our event at the National Library dahil hindi mo binanatan si the man, our ancient legal luminaries, right? Mendoza and Enrile. Bakit? But mabait ka masyado nung araw na yan, Justice? Was it because may bagyo and all?
Well, I want them to retract. So
All right.
the message there was, let's have a common narrative because we cannot beat China if we're divided. And
Right.
we have proof here that your statements in the past were wrong. So just correct
Yeah.
it for the sake of the Filipino nation.
Right. So you
So
wanted...
you have to be kind to them, and hopefully they will agree with what you want.
Kaya pala walang question and answer. Sana ipupush sana kita pang content eh. Actually, I live streamed part of your discussion and there was a lot of response. Sabi ko, dami palang gising sa umaga and all sa atin from all around the world. Mabuhay ka, Justice. Thank you so much for what you're doing. So, that means na yung ating mga kabataan, pwede na nila makita itong mga mapa na ito dyan sa National Library at saka yung mga ibang mahalagang lugar.
Yes, according to the director of the National Library, they will open it this November. The permanent gallery where they can see the 1734 Murillo Velarde map and the 1898 Treaty of Paris map.
Right. On that optimistic, well, slightly more optimistic note, kasi medyo na-depress na tayo dun sa earlier parts of discussion. Kasi parang you imagine, grabe yung challenge talaga sa atin for good governance and all of that. But I would say one of the bright spots is at least pagdating sa West Philippines, nagkakaroon tayo ng public consciousness, at least nagkakaroon tayo ng political consensus. Diba? Just remember how far we have come since 2016, 2017.
Yes, we imagine that we were fighting our own president.
Yeah.
That was terrible. Those were very difficult days.
I mean, he was fighting the governor of China. I'm sorry, fighting the president of the Philippines back then was really, really something, right? So
The president of the Philippines was the one defending China's invasion of the Philippines.
Kaya minsan I wonder, Justice, maybe abogado si Digong pero hindi sa Philippines. Abogado siya ng Chinese Constitution. Kasi parang galing-galing niya mag-defend ng China, pero ang sablay niya mag-defend ng sarili niyang bansa or ating saligang batas, di ba? I wonder where he got his legal theories and ideas. Yeah. On that note, thank you so much, Justice. Is there a particular thing you want people to check out? So aside from the National Library, where can they find the other maps? The Velarde map, AIM ba yun? Saan ba yung mga ibang maps?
The Velarde map is also in the National Library.
National Library, yeah.
So two maps there. We're trying to look for an original print of the 1875 map.
Mabuhay ka, Justice. Alam mo naman, I love this, talking to you forever, but pneumonia na si Ronald sa kakadaldal niya. So I'm suddenly now conscious not to overtire our special privileged guest. Lalo ikaw, mas special ka pa kay Ronald para sa akin. So thank you so much, Justice. Please get good rest. Take care of yourself. Mahaba-habang usapan ito. Elections is coming. So looking forward to meeting you in person again and continue these great conversations, including with the maps. Salamat po. God bless, Justice.
Thank you, Richard.
As
Thank you,
always.
and thank you to our viewers.
God bless po. Thank you so much. Mabuhay po kayo. Alright, there we go, guys. Thank you so much again sa inyo sa atin. Napansin niyo nga, di ba, maganda yung effect namin sa isa't isa. Napapakalma ako kay Justice Carpio. Si Justice naman, nagiging naging palabiro din dahil sa atin. But these are heavy issues. Kaya nga parati ko sinasabi sa mga tao, na I hope you understand, minsan, it's really hard discussing Philippine politics consistently because it's just so depressing. I mean, I go around the world and I talk to my friends in New Zealand, España, I don't know, Italia, I don't know, Sweden, whatever. Sila depressed sila. I mean, US, my goodness, que horror. I mean, people are so going crazy. Thinking about elections and all, medyo napapa-eye roll na lang ako sa US elections. But I tell them, my goodness, look at the Philippines. Grabe din ang mga problema natin. But having said that, isa sa dahilan na tuloy-tuloy lang itong ginagawa natin is because I'm also inspired by people who have been fighting the good fight in even more impossible circumstances. So speaking of that, babalikan ko ngayon yung memoir ni Alexei Navalny, the Russian dissident, opposition leader, one of the persons I really look up to, and someone, and ang ganda ng title ng memoir niya, The Patriot. This is someone who really sacrificed his life. He went back to Russia after he was poisoned. I mean, this is crazy. So he was going back to certain death. And he did it because he loves his country. He loves Russian literature. He loves Russian culture, Russian food, Russian architecture. I mean, he could have been a superstar, rock star, beloved exiled leader in France, in Germany, in New York. His daughter is studying in Stanford. I mean, he could have easily had the a comfortable life and be praised by, he's a good looking tall guy. He could have easily been, cover of Vogue mags, but no. As soon as he got well and survived, thanks to German technology, he flew back to Russia to almost certain death. And so actually, the very first chapter of his memoir is about death. So he knew he was gonna die. So grabe, it's so heavy, but it's also very inspiring. It's very inspiring. Whenever I read the story of people like that who fight for freedom in the most impossible conditions, my goodness, going against Putin is nothing compared to going against some clown here and there. From Trump to Digong or whatever. No offense. So reading those people really puts things into perspective. The same way now when I read about Rizal, what he had to go against. Rizal was a genius, great guy, fantastic guy, wonderful guy, but he was dealing with a government that didn't even treat him as a full human being because he was not Espanol, because he was a colonial subject. So imagine the humiliations that our forefathers had to go through. Kaya sa akin, naiiyak ako sa sarili ko every time sabi ko, grabe naman to, ayoko na. Ano ba yan? Magpalit ng showbiz na lang tayo. Mga ganun. And then I look at these people who went back to their country and stayed in their country against all odds, whether it's Rizal, whether it's Navalny, and say, just shut up, Richard, and do your job. This is the least you can do. This is the least I can do. This is the least I can give back to my country and to make sense out of my existence. And thanks to you guys for all the love and support and privileges to give me. Wala lang yun. Actually, minsan hinahanap ko pa yung mga trolls dahil natatawa na lang ako sa kanila. But it was no joke. It took me years to get used to all the trolling. In fact, I'm so used to it. Parang hinahanap ko siya every now and then, trolling back the trolls. But I had to develop those, defense mechanisms and coping skills. But I'm telling you guys, salamat sa inyong suporta. No? Todo. Hindi lang kami nagkakaroon ng lakas ng loob para tuloy lang natin itong laban natin in terms of critical thinking, whatever. Pero, na-inspire din kami dahil sa inyo. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mi gente. Let's talk tomorrow. Balikan natin ito later this week. Of course, we'll have back, again, hopefully back RRM with Ronald feeling better. I felt a little bit guilty about having him last week. And then, obviously, guys, we also have to have continuous conversations on human rights issues. So I'm hoping to have Kaloy Conde, not Kaloy, but Kaloy Conde of Human Rights Watch with us to also discuss about human rights justice issues. Because, ayon sa kanya, ayon sa mga eksperto, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang EJK, hindi pa rin natapos. Even if wala na sa poder ang mga Dutertes. Pag-usapan natin yan. Good night, God bless, and talk to you soon. Mabuhay po kayo. At maraming salamat sa nagbigay ng star support and stickers. I really, really appreciate that. Again, it's the gesture that counts. And obviously, your generosity is always appreciated. God bless po. And don't forget to subscribe to us and support us.